Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Staying Active in the Sunshine State webinar. I'm Carla Cosillo. I am one of the wellness coordinators for health promotion and wellness. And today we have Catherine Rose Kelly. She is the manager of health promotion and wellness. She's going to be doing our presentation for us.
All right. Hey, everybody. So I am really excited to be presenting this. One, because I am born and raised in the state of Florida, so pretty proud of that. So just to get started, just some fun facts about our Sunshine State. We are really lucky that we've got such diverse environments around us. We've got our beautiful beaches. We've actually got the second longest ocean coastline in the US. I think only Alaska beats us out. Like I said, we're really lucky in that we've got a lot of options when it comes to nature here. Like I said, we've got our beaches. We've got tons of trails and parks. We have 3 national parks and almost 200 state parks. And that includes walking trails, biking trails. We've got special bike trails that connect the coasts for our state. So if you're feeling adventurous, you can try those or the 1,500-mile long Florida National Scenic Trail. And then because we are above an aquifer, we've got access to over 1,000 known natural springs. And just because of the nature of the aquifer, new springs crop up all of the time. So especially here in Volusia, we've got beautiful Blue Springs, DeLeon Springs, Gemini Springs, you name it. So we're very lucky in all of the options that we have to go outside and enjoy nature. But today I wanted to touch on some of the health benefits about going outdoors. And really, we're going to talk about the physical, mental, and also the social benefits that are associated with going out and enjoying the green spaces around us. When it comes to the physical benefits, they offer opportunities for exercise and physical activity that you're not going to find in the gym because the gym isn't for everybody. And when it comes to nature, there's also just a ton of benefits when it comes to your mental and emotional well-being. I'll talk a little bit about some of the impacts on different parts of our nervous system. And then I'll also touch on some of those social benefits and how our natural, resources are great as a third space or third place for us. All right. So with the physical benefits, we can see that going outdoors, there's a lot of studies showing that being outside, being in a green space can help reduce our blood pressure. It can reduce cortisol levels. There's opportunities for physical activity that'll improve our overall cardiovascular health. So we don't produce vitamin D. So being outdoors, getting natural sunlight, that helps it, as well as getting better quality sleep. So especially with the sleep, being outside is really important. Being exposed to natural light daily rather than staying indoors all of the time underneath the different lights is really important to help regulate your sleeping and waking cycle. So sure, we've all heard about the blue light glasses. If you're trying to improve sleep habits, turning the screens off, so turning that blue light off, because within the natural light spectrum, that's not there. That blue light is what keeps us awake. So by going outside and getting that natural light, we're able to help regulate that sleep pattern a little bit more. And when it comes to these physical benefits, it's really interesting how much they've been studied. So there was a study done in Denmark for almost 1 million children that were born between 1985 and 2003. And so as they tracked these children, they found that those who lived in neighborhoods with more green space, who spent more time in nature, they had a reduced risk for mental health issues and improved physical health outcomes. And so I think it's really interesting that that long-term study showed just how beneficial it can be to go outside. So when it comes to the mental benefits of being outdoors, being in nature can help decrease your anxiety levels, and it can also help lessen those feelings of stress and anger. When people have regular access to green spaces, it's been linked to lower risks of depression. And also being outdoors can help improve concentration and attention spans. Um, One of the interesting things with going outdoors and the mental benefits is that being outside reduces stress on your sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is part of your autonomic nervous system. And really, we want to think of that as your automatic nervous system. So your automatic nervous system is what controls all of those functions like you don't think about. So your heart rate, your blood pressure, digestion, sweating, other things. But your sympathetic nervous system overall is also what is best known for controlling how you respond to stressful situations. So that fight or flight mode. And so when your sympathetic nervous system is regulated in a really healthy way, you're not going into fight or flight all of the time. And so the more time you spend outdoors, they've seen that you have a better control over that. So like I said, that's where you get that reduced anxiety, that reduced depression. When we mentioned the improved cognitive abilities and problem solving, being outside offers a lot of opportunities for that. I don't know if you guys got to go to summer camp when you were kids. If you've ever done an outdoor ropes course, it is all about team building and all about problem solving. And that's not necessarily something you can do indoors, but it's definitely something you can do outdoors in nature. And like I said, it is all about problem solving. And then, so this is really unique is when we talk about the social benefits of green spaces and going outdoors. And it's this concept of a third place. So when we think about it, home and work are usually our first and second places. So where we spend the most time. And then these public spaces are supposed to be the third places. So these are where we go, obviously, when we're not at home or we're not at work. And they're important for building community, for strengthening our social connections. And unfortunately, we're seeing a decline in these accessible public spaces, these third places, because most places they're charging you for entry. They're charging for an experience. They're not necessarily accessible to everybody. But having public parks that are open to everybody, having these outdoor options, that can help facilitate the social interactions outside of just our families and our workplaces that we need. So strengthening our communities as a whole and having these public natural spaces is really important and an integral part of that. And so when it comes to enjoying all of these natural resources, we've got a lot of options when it comes to the activities. So like I mentioned earlier, there is a 1,500-mile trail in the state of Florida. So if you are feeling adventurous and you want to try it out, I tip my hat to you because going for a hike, going for a walk in nature, it has more physical benefits than going for a walk on a treadmill. And I get it. It's Florida. It is very hot and humid outside. But like I said, there are a lot of benefits. So when you're walking in nature, when you're walking on a trail, even walking along the beach, we've all walked in the sugar sand. If you've ever pulled a wagon through the sand on the beach, you know that is a workout in itself because walking on that uneven ground, it's a great cardiovascular workout. It forces you to focus more and you end up using more muscle groups. And so walking on that uneven ground can actually help improve your balance over time. And since you're walking outdoors, you're the one you're generating that momentum. So walking and hiking will build more muscle strength versus just walking on a treadmill. So I encourage you guys to find walking trails within your area. You can look on your local city websites. You can look on county websites and find a place where you can walk in nature and get some of those benefits. Then we are a peninsula, so there is water everywhere. And just being around water and getting our physical activity in the water offers a lot of other great benefits too. So when it comes to, somebody who's got maybe joint issues, arthritis, even mobility issues, swimming, water aerobics, exercising in the water walking. Those are great opportunities to get in like a zero impact workout. Now, when you're in the water, like I said, it's zero impact. You're not worried about adding any pressure or doing any damage to those joints, but you're getting that increased resistance of walking through the water, of working through it. I used to teach water aerobics, and those classes were some of the best workouts I got. Now, those ladies did laps around me because I did them every day. Could not keep up with them. But it just goes to show just how beneficial those were. Again, with the cardiovascular health, swimming is a great exercise for that. It can help improve your heart rate. So we want to see a lower resting heart rate. Helps improve lung function since you are regulating your breathing, and it's a great way to burn calories, and you end up using more muscle groups. So again, this is a great exercise for somebody who is concerned about joint health, who can't get as much impact. Running, a great exercise, but not everybody can do it. But water running, water jogging, a great alternative where you get that resistance, but like I said, there's no impact on your joints. Now, like I said, we're in the sunshine state, so we do have to talk about some sun safety. So unfortunately, 1 in 5 Americans will develop some form of skin cancer in their lifetime, and we're actually seeing that number increase. So the rate of skin cancer it's going up. And so it's important that we understand how the ultraviolet radiation affects us, and then also how we can protect ourselves. So I do have to remind everybody that you should get your skin checked annually. That is something your primary care can do or a dermatologist can do. And it is an in-depth assessment. It is something that should be done in an office, so that way they can check, make sure that everything looks good. So the difference between UVA and UVB rays. So UVA, those are those longer wavelengths, and that penetrates deeper into your skin. That's what contributes to the aging and the wrinkles. UVB, those are shorter wavelength ultraviolet radiation, and that penetrates to the surface of our skin. But that is what's responsible for sunburns, and it's the major driver for skin cancer. So when you're purchasing sunscreen, it's important to make sure that it protects against both UVA and UVB rays. So that way, not only are you protecting against skin cancer, but against, if you're worried about those signs of aging. And to make sure that we're staying safe, we want to make sure that we are, wearing and reapplying SPF daily. Even if you work in an office, it's still important to put it on your face and hands, especially if you're driving, even sitting by windows, things like that. And if you work outdoors, you want to make sure that you're applying it regularly, at least every 2 hours. We want to try and limit our exposure during those peak hours where the UV factor is higher. We want to make sure that we're wearing protective clothing, including hats with wide brims, that we're wearing sunglasses that have a UV rating and can protect against those rays, because they do affect our eyesight over time. And then we also want to try and stay away from those tanning beds. I understand that staying tan, it might be important because we think that it means that we're healthy, we're active. But those tanning beds, they do contribute to skin cancer cases. And self-tanners have come a long way. So it might be a good idea to find an alternative if you want to keep that golden glow. And when it comes to sunscreen, I know that there are some myths out there, and picking out the right sunscreen can be difficult. The numbers aren't always super clear on what they mean. But just to dispel some of the most common myths, just because the number is higher, the SPF factor is higher, doesn't mean that's the longer you can go without reapplying. You should be applying and reapplying sunscreen every 2 hours. Just so that way, if you're sweating, if you're swimming, it will come off. Just because something says it's water resistant does not mean that it is waterproof. If you have darker skin, there are some myths that you won't get sunburn. And while melanin having that extra melanin does absorb some of the UV rays. It doesn't prevent sunburns or skin cancer. It can prolong before your exposure, before that sunburn starts to happen. But melanin can't protect against skin cancer. So regardless of your skin tone, it is really important to still use an SPF when you're outdoors. For some people, they say, oh, I don't burn, I tan. But a tan is still a sunburn. It's just an acceptable level of sunburn that we've said looks nice, that golden glow. It's still a sunburn though, so it is really important that you continue to protect your skin. Unfortunately, there are some myths out there about skin cancer caused by sunscreen and sunscreen additives, things like that. But we've got a lot of evidence that shows that sunscreen does not increase the risk of skin cancer or other types of cancer. The correlation between skin cancer and sun damage, however, is very well established and supported by evidence. So it is still very important to use sunscreen. It is safe. For some people, there's the reef safe sunscreens because there might be some components, some parts of the sunscreen that are more harmful to the oceans, to the reefs, to the wildlife. And so they would prefer to get something without that ingredient. But they're still going to protect you against sun damage. So that's always a consideration. But again, we know that sun damage and skin cancer go hand in hand. So again, we are in the Sunshine State. It's hot. We have had heat advisories, I don't know how many days in a row at this point. And exposure to those high temperatures is risky for everybody, but especially for the most vulnerable. And that includes infants, the elderly, and many people with different chronic conditions like congestive heart failure. There are certain medications that people take that actually make it harder to handle the heat. And those aren't specialty medications. Those are normal everyday things. So it's important to understand if you are taking medications, is there a side effect where heat intolerance could come into play? And so as the temperatures increase outdoors, we want to make sure that we have some of our best practices so that way we're staying safe. So we want to make sure we're limiting our exposure during those peak hours where that UV factor is highest. So middle of the day, that late afternoon. We want to make sure that we're wearing the loose, lightweight, light colored clothing. So those dark colors absorb the heat. If it's tight fitting, it's going to keep that heat in. It's going to insulate you. So that way you don't have the opportunity to cool down. We want to make sure that we're hydrating appropriately and frequently. So drinking plenty of water, adding things like liquid IV or other electrolyte mixes. Those are fine. Those are great. I would watch out for sugar content, but those are a great way to make sure that you are staying hydrated and keeping that electrolyte balance healthy. You do want to try and avoid or limit alcohol while you're going to be in the heat. That can actually decrease your ability to tolerate the heat. And so while we enjoy a nice drink on the boat or by the beach, try and limit it and hydrate alongside. And then if you're going to be outdoors all day, if you're working outdoors all day, it is really important to make sure that you've got rest breaks planned. So that can be when you're reapplying sunscreen, making sure there are shaded options available, especially if you're going somewhere with children, or like I said, the elderly, to make sure that they have a chance to rest out of the sun. And so since it is summertime, those temperatures are rising, it is very easy for somebody to start getting heat exhaustion. And if that's not treated, that can turn into heat stroke very quickly. So to differentiate between them, heat exhaustion is what leads to heat stroke. So with heat exhaustion, if somebody or yourself, you start to feel dizzy, excessive thirst, so they're chugging that water. If they are heavily sweating, if somebody starts to talk about feeling nauseous, or some kind of like weakness that they're starting to feel tired. You want to get them into a cooler area, get them out of the sun. If they're wearing tight fitting clothing, find a way to loosen it, take off any unnecessary layers. You want to make sure that they're starting to get hydrated. You don't want to chug water. You want to sip that cool water slowly. And then you want to make sure that those symptoms don't get worse, because if they do, it could very well be heat stroke. So with heat stroke, that is where you're moving into a medical emergency, because heat stroke can cause death or permanent disability. Unfortunately, we've seen those tragic stories of children who've been left in cars. They're dying from heat stroke. And so those symptoms that we want to be really aware of are confusion. So if somebody's been outdoors all day and they're not with it, if the dizziness is affecting their balance and they're becoming unsteady, if somebody loses consciousness, if they're vomiting because of being overheated, that's when you want to act fast. So you want to call 911. You want to get them to a medical center. You need to move them to a cooler area. Again, get that tight clothing off, remove those extra layers, start cooling them down with cool water, compresses, things like that. But it is very serious. We do want to take this seriously, because very quickly it's very easy for someone to become overheated and need medical attention. All right. And since, again, we're a peninsula, I want to talk about water safety. I was a lifeguard back in the day. That was my original career. So this is something I really care about. Unfortunately, we do see that drowning deaths are on the rise, not just in children, but also in adults 65 and up. And so a lot of that has to do with boating incidents and then unsafe behaviors out at like our beaches and things like that, or any other kind of water activities. So boating, great activity, one of my favorites. But I encourage everybody that if you own a boat, if you're on one regularly, complete a boating safety education course. Those are available through the state. It's really important to know what to do. They're going to have some great tips and some great education. We want to make sure that we're avoiding alcohol when we're out on the water as well. When they do reviews of boating accidents and incidents and injuries, alcohol is a major contributing factor. We don't drive drunk, so we don't boat drunk. You want to make sure that you're investing in U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets. So having a life jacket for every single person on your boat that is age appropriate and size appropriate. So the life jackets for infants, small children, even smaller adults, they're going to be different for a full grown man. So it's important to make sure that you're staying up to date. If you've got kids and they're growing, you're going to have to invest in those life jackets and make sure that everybody knows where they are and how to wear them. And then also, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to the water and weather conditions. It's Florida. We get those storms in the afternoon. So making sure that you're off the water by then to avoid the thunder and lightning is really important. And then some just general water safety tips. So if you've got a backyard pool, if you're at the springs, we encourage everybody to appoint a water watcher. So that is an adult who they're basically the lifeguard for the day. So they're paying attention to the pool. They're scanning the water. They're making sure that the kids are swimming safely, if they're wearing life jackets, and that way they can respond if necessary. We also want to encourage people to remember to avoid alcohol along the water. So if you're the water watcher for the day, you are committing to staying sober. But that's just safety first. Most drownings are going to take place in private pools. And so just by having one adult who's going to be responsible can help save lives. I encourage anybody who spends any kind of time around the water, if you're even just have a pool next door, you have a pond or anything behind your house, get certified in CPR and first aid. So that way you're able to respond if, God forbid, there is an incident. And that way you feel comfortable providing care before EMS arrives. And then again, paying attention to the water and the weather conditions. We've seen more lightning strikes this year, and I want to make sure that people understand that if you can hear thunder and see lightning, it is time to go inside. Don't wait before those storms are on top of you to make a decision. And just to close, I wanted to talk about the importance of us just caring for our natural spaces. I feel that we have a responsibility to take care of the environment around us, because when we have a healthy world, we have healthy people. Green spaces mean that we have improved air quality. We've got a reduced risk of disease. We see that nutrition and food security impacts happen because we're taking care of the environment. Think about being in a city. You've got that noise pollution, you've got that light pollution. When you're in a city in that urban area, concrete absorbs heat and just hangs on to it. If you've ever been in a city in the middle of summer, it's terrible. I was in Chicago last August. It was well over 100 degrees every day. There's no green spaces. So the green space, the trees, they naturally take that heat and dissipate it, keeping everything around them cool. And then we also want to make sure that we are taking care of our oceans and our waterways, because again, the more we take care of our environment, the more we get back from it. And just to close, I love this quote from John Muir, that in every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. So I hope everybody takes some time to go outdoors, to enjoy what we've got around us. I encourage you to go onto our Florida State Parks website, look up what's in your city, look up what's in your county, and take advantage of all of the beautiful nature we've got around us.
All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, Katie, for the presentation. That was some wonderful information. And I do hope everyone takes advantage of the outdoors a little bit. Enjoy the rest of your day.